Hey everybody, I'm Ryan, and in this video, we're tackling a topic that comes up every time a new edition is announced. New editions of our favorite RPGs are exciting, so then why does it sometimes feel like the community is split into two factions every time that they come out? With D&D 2024 and Pathfinder Remastered, it's a perfect time to dive into why new editions often spark such heated debates and what that says about our love of these games. Let's start with a simple truth. The change is hard. When it comes to tabletop RPGs, like any beloved hobby, the rules, settings, and systems become a comfort zone for players. All of us, we get attached to these familiar mechanics because they're what we know and what we're comfortable with. But when a new edition rolls around, it can feel like a disruption to something well-known and well-loved. It's like your favorite TV show getting a reboot. Sometimes that's great, but other times it feels like they've messed with perfection. Think about video games, TV shows, or even movies. New versions often meet with resistance for the same reasons. It's not just about the rules, it's about the memories and the experience that are tied to those rules and those additions. Next up, let's talk about the investment, both emotional and financial. A lot of us have spent years building characters, campaigns, homebrew rules, and worlds that are deeply tied to the current edition that we play. And when you've invested so much time and so much money into something, the idea of starting over can feel like a chore, not an upgrade. You've got a shelf full of books, a head full of rules, and then suddenly, bam, there's this new edition, and it feels like you're back to square one. And let's be honest, at least for me, there's this little voice in the back of my head that sometimes is asking, is this just a cash grab? Some players see new editions as a way for companies to cash in and capitalize on our love for the game, and that can add to the reluctance. A big thanks to all of our patrons, but especially to Nicole. If you'd like to help our channel and everything that we do here, head on over to patreon.com/rollforinitiative. All right, back to the video. Now, one of the biggest concerns when a new edition comes out is the impact on the community. Tabletop RPGs are social games at their soul and core, and changes can create rifts within player groups. There's a fear of losing your player base, especially if your friends prefer different editions. Maybe they love the new one and you don't, or the other way around. Suddenly the group dynamic shifts, and that can be really tough. We've seen this before with previous editions. I don't know if you remember or not, but the split opinions on 4th edition of D&D, some players embraced it, other people stuck with 3.5, or they moved to Pathfinder. On the flip side, 5th edition brought back a lot of players to the game. It showed that new editions can sometimes unite rather than divide, and some people hated it entirely. Now let's talk about nostalgia. It's a powerful force in the tabletop world. The version that you started with or that you grew up with often feels like the best one, doesn't it? It's what we call this golden age syndrome. When you've spent years playing a certain edition, it's easy to see it as the pure or the true version of the game. You have memories tied to those experiences, and then you tie those experiences to the rules that you learned. And the idea of changing all of that feels like losing a part of that experience. I've seen comments online where players talk about how older editions were more challenging or more immersive or just better. And while those statements are valid because they're their opinion and point of view, it's important to remember that every edition had its strengths and weaknesses. Okay, so we've talked about why people resist new additions, but let's not forget that they can be a good thing. First off, new additions often bring improvements in game mechanics, inclusivity, and accessibility. And for me, that's always going to be a good thing. D&D 5th edition, for example, revitalized the franchise by making it easier for new players to jump in while still offering depth for veteran players. Pathfinder Remastered looks like it's aiming to streamline gameplay while preserving what made the original beloved. And let's not forget that new additions bring fresh ideas and new players into our hobby. It keeps it alive and keeps it evolving. They might not always hit the mark, not for everybody, but they're crucial for the growth of the games that we all love. So why do people hate new editions of RPGs? It's a mix of comfort, investment, fear, and nostalgia. But at the end of the day, whether you stick with the old or embrace the new, what matters most is the joy of gathering around the table and telling amazing stories together. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think of new additions? Why do you think that they're met with resistance at time? Are you excited for D&D 2024 or Pathfinder Remastered? Drop some respectful comments in below with your ideas, and let's have a conversation about it. So until next time, I'm Ryan, and this is Roll for Initiative. Bye. Okay, so now it's actually shooting. There we go. Well, all of those tests were actually tests because I wasn't recording the first time.